reason this session of our summer leadership series is about supporting our members' mental health and specifically what we call the SIU Cares program. I'm going to talk about why we do it, where it comes from, and what it means today, and where we might be going in the future. Um, so I'll start with the why. Why should a fraternity focus its time on mental health and wellness? And I don't want to get lost in stats. There's a lot of them out there. Uh, some of them might not be perfect, but as someone who's worked in this higher ed space for a number of years, we are seeing an increase in issues. And it's not just because people are being more thoughtful and are identifying these issues as much. Um, I don't know how much it's increasing or the awareness, but I do think it's comfortable to say it's not necessarily declining. Um, uh, I saw an American College Health study that recently said 39% of students uh, in college experience a significant mental health issue. Um, it's believed most mental health issues begin by the age of 24, and a lot of them start to be happen in high school and during those college years. Um, and another alarming statistic we saw is the vast majority, again, ACH said about 67% of people between the ages of 18 to 24 with anxiety or depression issues don't seek treatment. Um, the study also said the number one fear that incoming college students had was feeling lonely, that 64% of all college students at one time felt very lonely in the previous 12 months. At the same time, only 19% said they never felt lonely. Uh, and while mental health and wellness alone is important, one of the reasons why we're focusing our time at SIU and fraternities in general are looking at it is that the outcomes we're seeing too often are unhealthy coping mechanisms, whether it's misuse of alcohol, drugs, self harm, and suicide in extreme cases. And while mental health issues exist in all genders and sexes at a high rate, the extreme end of suicide is much more prevalent in men. It's almost 4 times more common for a male to commit suicide than a female. And sadly, I hate to say this, but in recent years, we've had uh, a number of undergraduates pass away. In July of 2023, a young man by the name of Brendan Davis from our Epsilon Nu chapter at Michigan State. In February of 2023, a young man by the name of Jack Dyson from our University of Mary Washington chapter. And in November of 2021, Miles Turner, a young man who is a member of our Road chapter at the University of Wisconsin. And these all might not have been suicide and may have been overdoses due to substance abuse or coping, but everyone involved believes that there were some mental health issues. And I can't stress this enough. These tragic events, I don't believe there was anything that chapter could do to avoid them. But even just being around that, knowing that we're seeing these rates on college campuses, we want to be mindful of this situation and do what we can to help. Because, while these statistics up here and what I just said is alarming, we have an opportunity in fraternity to make a difference in this space, and quite frankly, make a meaningful difference. I love our public motto. Unto us is befallen a mighty friendship. And I think about that phrase, a mighty friendship, a lot. I get the privilege of being able to travel around to campuses across the country and see that friendship firsthand. And we aren't stating it wrong. Having friends, peers you can trust and even just be around to support one another and help fight these problems and have conversations when you're feeling down goes a long way. In fact, studies show members in fraternities have less anxiety and depression than their peers. And when members seek help, they are twice as likely to turn to a close friend first. The number one recommendation we have gotten to help with mental health intervention is increasing mental health literacy through online and e-learning sources. Uh, also doing what we can to decrease the stigmas around seeking help. And again, I think about that public motto we have, unto us is befallen a mighty friendship. And I know in fraternities, we can do that well. In many cases, do. And it was kind of from that the SciU Cares program developed. And there you go, Eric. I believe those are brothers from the Alpha Omicron chapter in that photo. In kind of where the SciU Cares program began was in 2016. We invited a speaker to our convention by the name of Ross Sabo to speak about mental health issues and supporting your friends. And after that, the convention response was amazing and started putting in motion what became this program. And it started small. It just asked every chapter to start participating in a program like the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention's Out of the Darkness Walks. And it slowly grew from there. In 2019, actually, by looking at what some other chapters were doing, the convention added the creation of a health and wellness chair for every chapter. While not required, it is highly recommended that every chapter have this position. And then in early 2021, we formally branded this program SciU Cares and started to build it out a little bit more and define it. And it has three basic components. Again, that every chapter should have a health and wellness chair. And what we mean by that is someone who's informed about the available resources on their campus and in their surrounding community for members and shares this information with the chapters and new member classes at least once, formally during a new member education program, as well as to the chapter. I can't stress this enough. This person's job is not to be the chapter therapist. That's not what we're looking for. And in fact, that could be dangerous if we ask someone to take on that role. But it's someone you can go to if you think you need help or if you think someone else may need help. And hopefully that person knows where the resources are in their local community on where to go. The second part of this is every chapter is asked to participate in at least one service or philanthropy event that lessens the stigma of mental health issues. And a little bit later, we're going to talk about some of these examples and some great ways to get involved and help lessen this stigma. And the third is to hold at least one educational session per year with an outside speaker to talk to the chapter about a topic relevant to mental health issues, anxiety, depression, just dealing with the stresses of college. We also added a component to our Tightrope new member education program that has a general review and understanding the signs and symptoms of mental health issues. And through this, we created a website. There's a page on sciu.org that is also included in your Asana project for the SciU Cares program, which will give you a lot of the online resources for where to go. And I'm going to talk about some of these later, but these are the three parts of where we are right now with the SciU Cares program. So I'm going to dive in a little bit more to the health and wellness chair. Um, and again, many chapters are absolutely allowed to define this their own way themselves in the full spectrum of what they want to cover. But in general, especially if you're a chapter of 30 or more people, it should be a standalone position. In some smaller chapters, it could be appropriate to assign this to another role, or in some cases, possibly have it be a part of well, like I say, be a part of someone else's role, or it might be something that's where you hold multiple positions in the chapter. Again, I want to make sure this is clear. It is not to be the chapter therapist. Uh, that would be a huge task, and we don't want to overburden any of our members. Obviously, they're probably going to be empathetic, they can listen to issues, but a lot of times if someone needs help, it's important that they speak with someone who's properly trained. And that's why it's important that they should know where the resources are on their campus. One of the things that the SciU Cares website points to is an excellent tool called U Lifeline, which you can put your campus into, and it'll give you the numbers of anything on your campus where the health and wellness center, because every campus is different and names and branding's a little bit different, but where you can go for help. Um, and I highly recommend going to that place and seeing fully what is being offered. We've seen campus health centers, especially in a post-COVID world, have grown a lot and can offer some very, very meaningful stuff. There's a number of campuses that will actually offer free online therapy to members. Many campuses do have a way to meet with people in person as well. And I totally understand a lot of people are resistant to that. It can be hard to walk into a health center. It's hard to take the time one-on-one. That's why a lot of them are moving to online therapy, e-therapy, to help work around all of your schedules. Um, but U Lifeline is a great starting point. We also have some other resources linked to specific online groups that can help with resources around anxiety, depression, just mental health and physical health are tied together quite a bit. But what are some of the best things we can be doing uh, ourselves? We also ask the health and wellness chair to be that person who ensures the chapter, working with the philanthropy and service chair, that they are working with a third party at some point during the year that uh, raises money or is a service activity that works in the space, and also make sure that we have some form of additional education that happens once a year. So that's in general what we ask the health and wellness chair to do. Um, Philanthropy and service events are incredibly important, not only because supporting mental health and wellness issues are important, into meaningful cause. But this is one of the great ways we can help lessen the stigma around these issues and create environments where our members can be more comfortable to talk about them. I know a number of our chapters participate in Out of the Darkness walks for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And again, on that SciU Cares website, we do our best to go through the national walks that are announced. And we have a spreadsheet we link to that we post the dates on any campus that we're at. And for some of you, because not all of our campuses have a walk, but the nearest one we can find that's a local community walk. I don't want to overgeneralize, but what we tend to see in the fall, we tend to see community walks. In the spring, we tend to see more campus walks. That's not perfect. There's always some places to do it differently, but in general, that's what we see. And we do our best to find those out and include both. A lot of times from now, like if you were to look at the spreadsheet now, a lot of spring walks have not been announced, but we keep the information up for last year's because that's probably where it's going to show up. And it's probably going to happen at a similar time period. Um, uh, Another great cause, uh, and quite frankly, an easy one to be involved with is Movember. If you've never heard of Movember, it happens during the month of November. And the idea is simply it asks men to grow a mustache. And often has a philanthropic model where you raise money for Movember. But what I love about Movember is kind of the thought process is, especially if you've never grown a mustache before, it can look a little bit awkward. And a lot of people are going to go up to you and say, "Hey, why are you growing a mustache?" And that gives you the opportunity to say, well, Movember supports men's health issues like um, uh, mental health and wellness. And just starting those conversations, and especially chapters that do it together, again, it creates an environment that's special and it shows we care. And quite frankly, when a bunch of people do it together, it can be a lot of fun. We've seen a number of our chapters really lean into this. Um, Another easy way to get involved, and I've been thinking about ways connected to SciU as a whole. There's a great foundation out there called the JED Foundation that has created a social media campaign called Seize the Awkward. When it just asks people to post on their social media accounts personal stories, if they've ever needed help, how they got help, how they've supported one another, especially if you have any positive stories when you were helped, and just sharing those stories publicly if people are comfortable. That can be a powerful message to those people in your social media community for you and all of you. Because especially when you see someone who's very confident that you might not think have an issue, share, yes, you want to know what? I've been depressed too. I felt down too. That could be such a powerful tool. And Seize the Awkward right now can kind of be done at any time. And again, we've got resources for that on the SciU Cares website. Uh, Actually, at this year's convention, the 180th convention that just happened a couple weeks ago, well, it wasn't a resolution. There was a lot of discussion about maybe creating a week where all of us in SciU try our best to do this together. We've got a small committee of undergraduates who are involved, called the Undergraduate Advisory Board, and I want to work with them and see if there's a way to pull this off because I think that would be a great way to show we're an international fraternity and we're all working together to support one another. Um, Another part of convention is we collect these news and service reports. And it was so meaningful to me to see how many of you all reported what you're doing for the SciU Cares. Almost every single chapter is hosting at least, in many cases, multiple events during the course of the academic year. Um, uh, we've got a couple beyond. Is there any other organizations that you've seen that your chapter's been involved with or that you've seen on your campus that might be a good philanthropic or service-based opportunity around mental health and wellness? And it's all right if not. Like I said, most of you, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, that is our kind of and it's not just because I don't want to oversimplify it being easy, but it's so well established. It is easy to get involved with, and it's a meaningful experience. Um, and the third part is education. Um, just because we have a person who's a chair that's supposed to be focused on this, just because we're involved, it doesn't mean we can't learn more. Some of the examples that I saw come in from news and service reports included chapters that invited people to talk about self-care, managing stress, proper rest, which is something a lot of you college students aren't doing well enough. But what are the signs of distress? And also, how do you actually approach someone if you're concerned about them, whether it's about depression or even more, sometimes more obvious situations around substance abuse? That's not easy. And in your campuses, almost always will provide speakers free of charge. If you're recognized by the university, uh, sometimes they will work with you and host a private session just for the chapter. I can't promise that everywhere. Not everyone has those resources, but you'd be surprised what might be available to you. And if you're not recognized by your campus probably provides these talks, and you as a group can attend. Again, every campus is different, and we highly recommend going to your, for lack of a better term, health center, whoever's centered on this. And again, you can use Lifeline to figure out who and see what options are available to you. Um, in some extreme cases, maybe you can't find something that works for you within your college or university. Again, that's happening less and less, but there's often also additional resources in your community. Um, Even in rural areas, this is something that absolutely is available. Um, and since these groups are almost always nonprofits, partial and sometimes even full funding is available. Usually cost is not the barrier to get this done. Um, again, we started using Tightrope a number of years ago as a risk management education tool. And when I was talking with the creators of it, they brought up we want to build a module on mental health issues to help complement this. Do you think that's a good idea? And I was like, absolutely. I'd love to hear it. And as soon as it became available, we signed up. Again, we know that isn't enough alone, but it's at least a starting point. And something, again, that just happened at our convention, at the 180th convention up in Boston, is a recommendation that every health and wellness chair should complete some form of training or certification, such as the mental health first aid through the National Council of Mental Wellbeing. I'm we just got back from convention, so I haven't figured it all out yet. I'm looking into what some other options are, if there's a way where we can help fund this. But for instance, that service costs less than $200 per person. So if we're just talking about one person per chapter, I'm sure we're going to be able to work something out. Um, uh, and I believe it's about a 4-hour program. Uh, but I do think that's good because, again, we're not looking for the health and wellness chair to be a therapist for the chapter by any means, but some additional training so they know how to approach someone in a positive way who they feel they may need some help. Again, I don't want to. Uh, I know that isn't easy, but again, if we think about that motto of Psi Upsilon, our public motto, um, unto us is befallen a mighty friendship. If we truly have a mighty friendship, if we truly care about one another, we need to build up the courage that if we see someone who's struggling, that we don't ignore it. We don't ask them to just rub some dirt on it. Uh, we ask them, brother, I think you might need some help. How are you doing? So we're looking at ways to partner and get some additional training to all of you in our chapters. Um, And we're also looking at what are the options for, is there a way to better connect groups with online e-resources to be shared throughout chapters, whether it is online therapy, um, uh, um, different kinds of mental health and wellness coaching. You probably heard of some of the larger companies called like Better Mind is out there, and a lot of people might be familiar with. But we're seeing more and more of these resources become available, and we want to make sure we're doing what we can as an international fraternity to get you the help you need and the support you need um, to be students in today's environment. Um, so, is there anything that you've seen, maybe before you came to college, from your high school or prep school, maybe another organization you're involved with, or something else on your campus? Uh, I'm all ears. I would love to hear any ideas that you might have, or some ways to get involved that you might think would be meaningful for SciU, or ways we can do a better job to support you. And again, we're recording. I know, Joe, you came in late, so I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable and put you on the spot. But is there anything any of you have seen that you would like to share? Anything additional? Uh, I mean, I guess it's kind of a similar way of asking the same question, but is there anything else you could see us as a national fraternity, without a direct example, but other things we can do uh, uh, to encourage participation in the SciU Cares program?
Um, I think it might just be important probably to just try and get the word out more to members of the fraternity. Um, of course, a way to look at it is that, there's two people in this meeting, but I
Yep,
think if since you're recording them and you're going to be sharing them in the future, I think that will be helpful to get people to know about it.
absolutely, Eric. That's a big part of our goal is to, that's why we're recording these to, we want to create these webinars and be able to allow you to have them on your time. One of the ways we support chapters is, especially archons have regular check-ins with their chapter coach, we call it, who's a staff member, and that is always one of their, might not be the first talking point, but I can tell you it's definitely a top 10 to talk about the SciU Cares program and make sure then that coach is reaching out to whoever that is assigned to on the campus. And we are trying to, you'll notice when I see success stories, a chapter involved with an American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, or I see some other win, I always make sure it's shared on our social media channels. And oftentimes there'll be a little link to the SciU Cares program whenever I can put it out there. But you're right, Eric. We need to be vocal about this. We need to get the word out as much as possible. And again, I appreciate both of you for being here so much. We put it out in email, but we know emails imperfect, and we're looking for as many ways as possible to talk about it. Another thing we do in SciU is once a month we have what we call a town hall on the first Wednesday of every month, where we invite chapter leaders, the undergraduate advisory board. We actually do separate ones for alumni leadership as well. And we have a different topic, and I can tell you over 12 meetings in a year, at least 2 of them will be highlighting some aspect of the SIU Cares program. And it often comes up even more than just that. But you're, again, absolutely, we need to amplify the message as much as possible. All right. So with that, I will go ahead and stop the recording.